Welcome, everybody. I'm Drew Messinger-Micheals. I'm the head of sales for Base One, and with me today is Nick Dilworth. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Nick, Senior Technical Consultant at Base One. Just working with our customers on everything they need for e-commerce and jumping into AI.
Amazing. Yeah, we spoke a bunch like offline, but we've never spoken online, and I'm really excited about it. If you've been watching the stuff that we've been putting out as Base One, you might have noticed that Eric and I, last time when we were talking a bit about CCV2 migrations and headless front ends and those kinds of things, right at the end, we touched on the idea of AI and risk tolerance. Where are appropriate places to potentially think about using this kind of tooling, and where are places you probably shouldn't? What's it good at? What's it bad at? But we really just scratched the surface. So I wanted to go at least like one layer deeper. Nick, you know about this stuff way more than I do. So I wanted to sort of cut through some of the hype and some of the, I think people talk past each other with this kind of stuff a fair bit, and we can maybe even talk about why that's the case. But I wanted to talk a little bit about like the state of play for AI tooling and kind of like a non-hype beast, kind of like, like a practitioner's way. So maybe to start off, like what technologies are we talking about? What is the current landscape of tools that we use, that customers use, or that we and our customers are considering using?
Yeah, for the most part right now, it's looking at the frontier labs. We're looking at Anthropic, OpenAI, their tooling through Claude and Codex have been huge for just developing internally and finding ways to find value of AI like within the enterprise. It's been enabling the developers to move way faster. It's been enabling our non-technical members to be able to like jump in and understand technical tasks a lot easier without having to go reach out to a technical person. So they're able to move a lot faster and get a lot farther before they need to start talking to the technical team. Looking at the ecosystem AI, SAP, Adobe, Salesforce, they're all starting to build in their own AI tools within their ecosystem and finding ways to integrate with those tools, or what openings they provide to bring in outside AI tools to work with their ecosystems.
Okay, so like among those, what do we actually use internally and what do we use them for?
We're using Claude and Codex quite a bit internally for development teams, for them just to do our work. Working on our integrations, like our CI/CD, working on rapid prototyping. You have an idea, and that's what AI is amazing at, is just being able to take that idea and run it through a lot faster and find our way to, is there value for this? Can we build on this, go further? Testing, QA, being able to build up those test cases, generate product data, all that kind of stuff a lot faster. And just custom tooling as well, just try and find ways to replace our manual processes. Wherever things were sitting down, something you do for an hour every single day, like, can we replace that? Can we optimize that?
Productivity tooling. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And making it, like, as you say, like greatly decreasing the distance in time between having an idea and seeing what it might look like, validating whether it's worth pursuing in the first place. Fair to say?
Yeah, exactly.
So if that's what the tech is good at, what is the tech bad at?
So it's bad at, funny enough, math. It's something we should find the right system for. So it's not something you should be jumping into with AI.
We have to linger there a little, because a computer that's bad at math is a very funny thing, right? But it's like, it's because we're dealing with kind of novel ways of computing information, right? So stuff that you would think, like on some level, all computers do is math, right? Like that's an oversimplification, but only a little bit. The idea that you can't rely on it for that, I think, is counterintuitive, and it's maybe what trips a lot of people up, right? Or one thing.
Yeah, and I think a big thing is that AI is non-deterministic. So you can ask the same thing over and over again, and you get a different result. So math that's the opposite of math. So
math sort of, you should always get the same answer. Yeah, if all's going well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But it's more something just to be aware with of when you're using AI. Like, is this the right thing? Is this the right tool for the job, for what we're trying to do?
Sure. Maybe is that related to the hallucination problem, the issue of like non-deterministic?
Yeah, definitely. Because AI is trying to find the best output from the inputs that you've given it. And if it goes down a track where it maybe gets the wrong idea, it will compound that issue and that failure over and over again. That's how you get those hallucinations, because it's kind of on that track. And unless you correct it or identify it, that will persist. So it's something that's hard to find because it's very confidently wrong. And that's something you have to really watch out for and try to set up those guardrails.
What about balancing competing objectives, right? Is that something that it also struggles with?
Yeah, if we're looking at kind of a broader subject of how we're trying to achieve a certain goal, if your output has 10 different objectives it's trying to hit, and you've kind of made your objective too broad, it's
Hmm.
trying to meet all of these goals at the same time, and maybe there's some that don't align. So we have to tailor our inputs and outputs to have a very focused goal, because AI is just very good at that.
Interesting. So in summary, it's good when you have a focused goal. It's good when you're using it as a force multiplier for your own workflow. It's not as good at like it's a very potent yes and machine, right? So if you have a bad opening premise, or if it comes up with a hallucination somewhere along the line, if you don't correct that, it'll chase that rabbit hole forever, essentially. There are no inherent guardrails against that, so we have to sort of build guardrails in. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's where we start looking at evals. So in programming, we have tests. So we have 1 = 1 is true. We can build those out for a deterministic system. But when we're in this non-deterministic world, an eval is saying kind of what is the right output for this, and right can mean a few different things. So that set of evals is something we put in as guardrails to when we request something from the AI, that what the output fits in within the evals that we're looking for, and that we know that it's heading in the right direction. So the more inputs and the more evals and the more examples of we have of what is right, the better chance we have of getting that consistent result.
That makes sense. What other guardrails do we use? Because I imagine we don't just kind of like let the thing cook and then ship whatever it puts in, as you're saying, right? Like, what else do we do besides those evals?
Uh, humans are great at that. But everything we
Yeah.
do goes through us. So making sure that we don't allow any AI output to just be sent through to production, or directly to the customer or the client. Everything is reviewed. Make sure that we've had eyes on, hands on everything that the output comes from. We don't just get to hand off responsibility to the AI and say, it's your job now. That's something that we're using to accelerate our output, but not replace us. It's something to just make us work a lot faster, but make sure we're still
Yeah.
involved.
We were talking about that disconnect, and maybe this is the source of it in some way, that like it is a tool that you use. Again, it's a productivity tool, and productivity tool, it sounds like a value neutral thing, but it's not really, right? When people can become much more productive in their field, that can mean jobs or certain parts of jobs do go away or get automated or change fundamentally, right? So it's like we want to be careful about not being flip about that. But a productivity tool is still something very different from what it sometimes gets sold as by the frontier labs, which is get ready to fire everyone who works for you because AI is going to do their jobs for them. I think anyone who like works with this stuff knows that it's not that, right? Like that isn't really what we're sort of like waiting for it to become either, right? And it's not going to become a super intelligence. It's not any of those things. It is a tool that can really accelerate various processes in the hands of someone who knows how to use it.
Yeah, and I think we've seen this kind of time and time again with technology. The technology shows up, and everyone says it's going to wipe out this and wipe out that. But in reality, what happens is we just do more of that thing. We just get better at it. We're able to have more productivity from one person. So we're not going to have less people. We're just going to have more output. And that's kind of what we want to push towards, is enabling
Yeah.
the people that we have to produce more and produce those things faster, better quality, more accuracy, things like that.
So based on that experience, how would you recommend that customers deploy these tools? Right? How should they be thinking about it? We talk to a lot of businesses out there who have cool ideas about how they might want to use it, but we talk to many more, frankly, who kind of tell us, my boss says I have to use AI or I'm going to get left behind and I have no idea what that means. Tell us, right? Like, what is a useful way to think about how this stuff could be used at a retailer, a manufacturer, like really anybody who's the kind of business we might work with?
Yeah, there's kind of two tracks. So, there's kind of the internal track, which is how do you enable your business, your teams, your developers to use AI internally to like accelerate your systems, to find more information about your current data, like how
Mm-hmm.
to improve your internal workflows. And then we have the external side, which is like how do we provide this to customers? How can we improve their experience using AI? On the internal side, I think it's starting really with workflows. It's not everyone has that tagline, like my boss said, I need to use AI, but what does that mean? Really,
Right.
it's finding those workflows internally that are taking time, are prone to breaking, are just using up a lot of internal resources and just starting to break those down and define them and find out, like, can I use AI here to replace this workflow? It doesn't really matter what the underlying technology you go with is, but just really targeting that problem, that workflow problem, and then applying the AI to that.
Something I've heard you talk about is like progressive trust for an AI system. Could you talk a little bit about like what that looks like from sort of a step-by-step perspective?
Yeah, it can be scary to say, like, all right, the AI is loose, go ahead, do your work. So we don't want to start there. We want to start progressively expose the AI to our systems and to that workflow. So, we've selected a workflow we're gonna implement AI to. We do a lot of internal testing, build up those evals, find the place that it's going to fit well, and we just start with silent operation. It's running in the background, it's reading the data, it's starting to provide some output, but no actual interaction with the output system. It's not making any changes, just for us to see how it's working, if it's doing what we expect it to do, and we can start to tweak and tune the system so that it's getting to the output that we want. Once we get to the point where we're starting to feel like we have the output we want, we put it more into like an advisory mode. So that's more that it's front and center when the data comes in, the workflow starts happening, we get that AI output of what it's suggesting, what we think it wants to do here. And again, continue to iterate, get to the point where we're starting to really trust the results, and we can put it into like a controlled autonomous mode where it gets to the point where it's going to make the change and says, here's what I'm going to do. And we say, yep, looks good. So we're still involved. We're still double checking before any changes are made, and just keep progressing until we get it really down to the point where we're really trusting the output. And then before we flip that over into an autonomous mode and we allow it to do its work, we still have observability. We can make sure we see what the inputs are, the outputs, make sure we're getting the value that we want out of it, and always having those short circuits and evals in case something happens and it can raise its hand and like, I need a human review.
Sure. And at least with the current state of the tech, are there certain aspects of someone's business where you like shouldn't even be trying to get to that autonomous state, right? Are there kind of like no-goes or simply areas of much greater caution?
Yeah, I think financial systems are definitely still something that is, every penny matters. So finding ways to use AI within financial systems is probably more of a kind of an observability reporting kind of tooling as opposed to really integrating with your financial systems. I think will come eventually, but it's not quite mature at this point. Just being careful with PII and exposing any security concerns, API keys, all that kind of thing. Something always to be cautious of.
And data security too, right? Like keeping your data set discrete, as opposed to necessarily like the thing with the frontier models is they've gotten a lot of like end consumers, I suppose, used to the idea of one giant machine that does everything and knows everything. But I think for a lot of the kind of purposes we do, we explicitly don't want that, right? Like we want a bounded, secure data set that isn't, fed to some kind of big public model. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's been a big push, I think, in the last 6 months is looking towards, what do open source models look like? So the frontier models kind of are running the show right now, but open source models have made huge improvements in the last 6 months on just speed, size of the models, where they can run, being able to run them locally. And, once you have that internal, you have full control of the data. You're not sending any of your information off to a different company. All their terms of service say they won't do it, but we just never know, right? So having all that data internal is always kind of a safer practice.
It's clear that people are hungry for that, though. Like people, Apple was running out of Mac Minis because everybody was like, grabbing them to try and like run their own box. But then that box was still like via API calling out to the mothership, if I'm not mistaken. So like people want it, but we're not quite there yet. To your point, at least if you want to be working at that kind of frontier level.
Yeah, I think it's coming. There's been a lot of moves and just the optimizations of the models, a lot of like compression, how we don't need massive server racks depending on like how much output you actually need to get these things running. They're gonna, I think over time, the optimization of those systems is going to just increase dramatically, and we're going to be able to see more and more of those AI systems running locally and being able to run them ourselves and run them for our clients so that they can know that their data is safe and staying internal.
purpose built too. Yeah, like we have a
Yeah,
little bit more of a sense that it's going to do the job that it was designed for because it was designed to do a job rather than to do absolutely everything under the sun.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, yeah, I mean, I hope anybody watching understands that, like, A, this stuff is kind of complicated. B, like, there's something there, right? Like, I think it's very easy to kind of hear sort of like the extreme hype that some of these frontier model companies are putting out there and either like buy into it on the one hand or think of it all as hucksterism on the other. And the truth is that like there is something here technologically that practitioners are using. I think whenever you talk to somebody who's a developer, and you come with either of those extreme takes, developers are like, what are you talking about? It's like a tool that I'm using and learning to use. And like it can easily, people can talk past each other quite easily. So I think the message is if you would like to talk more about how this can really transform your business or how it should or shouldn't in a given instance, come talk to us, right? Like Base One has the expertise and we're always kind of like in the weeds figuring this stuff out and figuring out how best to use it. Nick, I think it's fair to say you're happiest in the weeds with this stuff, right? Like you're not looking for the hype, you're looking to do it, right? And figure out what can be done.
Definitely. Love the details. Love replacing workflows. There's nothing better than taking a long system process and just completely automating it. It's like a light bulb moment when it really clicks and it works.
A deep sense of satisfaction. Yeah, right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you once again. Thanks for your time, Nick. And thank you all for watching. If you want more videos like this, then, follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to our YouTube. I think links to that should be below. I'll point down. I think that's a best practice. Thank you all for watching and have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye.